Hello and welcome to TheAIbumMan, and today we're going to be having a bit of a rant on a recent decision that the High Court in the UK, in all their glorious wisdom, have come to. Basically, if you haven't heard, making private copies of music you've bought is now illegal in the UK after the High Court overturned a law which changed the law permitting the making of copies for personal use. So basically, back in October 2014, there was a pretty decent law that came into effect called the Copyright and Rights in Performances Regulations 2014. This affected music, TV, films, ebooks, etc. And it became acceptable to buy a CD and make a copy for use elsewhere, such as outside the home or for backup purposings, for format shifting and putting it onto your phone or iPod or MP3 device. And of course, it still, remained illegal to share the material with others and to, resell copies that you've made. Of course, I mean that's understandable. That is, theft and sharing, or effectively enabling theft. That's understandable. And to me, that was a really positive change because, to be quite honest, it's something everyone does. I mean, when you buy a CD, if you want to listen to it on your phone, you're not going to buy it again, are you? No, you're just going to rip it onto your iTunes or whatever and load it on. Easy as that. It's great. No one has a complaint about it. But, no, there are some people, who do have a complaint about it. You see, the Musicians' Union and the industry body UK Music, they were not very happy about this. And recently, as I said, they won their legal challenge in court. UK music boss Joe Dipple said the High Court agreed with us that government acted unlawfully when it introduced an exception to copyright for private copying without fair compensation. We welcome the court's decision to quash the existing regulations. So what reason is given for this? Well, it is vitally important that fairness for songwriters, composers and performers is written into the law. It's only right that government gives us the standard of legalisation our music deserves. We want to work so that this can be achieved. This, to me, is an absolute massive facepalm of a legal decision and just the musicians union, the music industry in general. It really demonstrates to me how out of touch the music industry is. In a time where streaming has become one of the most prevalent ways of sharing music, the age of the physical is gone. If you look at sales from the year of 2014, then that's the first time ever that digital sales and streaming actually eclipsed the physical product. Well, vinyl is seeing really great increases. CDs, on the other hand, are not. They're becoming a legacy format and becoming more obsolete. And of course, I love CDs, but I can understand why it's happening. We're moving to a far more digital age. And the music industry really needs to try and keep up with the times, particularly the archaic copyright law. And copyright law in the UK and US, I said particularly, is certainly very backwards. It really doesn't take the internet age or things like YouTube into account very much at all, and really blocks a lot of creativity. Like with the overruling of some of these regulations, see, one of the things that the Act of 2014 brought in was the right for parody and fair use for parody, and really made the UK's fair use laws far better and far more in keeping with those in the rest of Europe. Whereas now it seems that has possibly also been repealed as well, which means you can't use things for parody. Like one of the examples BBC gave, which I thought was a good one, was the YouTuber, I think, Cassette Boy, who does like remixes of the UK programme The Apprentice, which is a fantastic programme I love, and they're really, really funny parody videos that he does of that. And that became legal to do things like that, and now that seems to have gone. So we're going to be looking at some of the arguments for and against this, but mainly we're going to be destroying the arguments for having this law in place. So, UK Music commissioned a detailed consumer survey which considers consumers' willingness to pay for CDs depending on the types and extent of copyright they can undertake in respect to those CDs. So basically, it's to say that how much would people pay if they had access to licensed copies of them. So, you know, they put them in their CDs and it's licensed, it's all fine. Not like currently, if you rip a CD, that's, you know, it's unlicensed. You can make as many copies and no one's keeping track of them. You don't have a license to do that because, well, of course it is legal in the UK. It's just something that everyone does, and we'll be getting to some of the unenforceable aspects of it in a bit. So the economic expert Compass Lexicon, who I've never heard of before, analysed the results of this survey and set out a report. So we're going to be having a look at a few parts of the report of why this law is apparently a good thing. Apparently, consumers are willing to pay £8.97 more for CDs, which allow them to make unlimited licensed copies, than for CDs which they are allowed to make unlimited unlicensed copies of. And apparently this figure translates into a 2.4 billion loss in revenue for the period between 2006 and 2012. Wow. There's just so many errors going on both UK Music's part and these lexicon economist people. So first, are you seriously claiming that consumers will pay £8.97 more for CDs, which allow them to make unlimited licensed copies? So if we take the average price of a new CD is about £8.99, so about £9, add another £9 onto that, that's roughly about £18 for a CD, for just a standard edition of a CD. I mean, that's nearly as much as freaking Megadeth's Pledge Music campaign, which I heavily criticise. No one can afford that. No one's going to pay £18 for a CD. £9 seems okay, you can just find, oh, it's a tenner for a CD. That seems fair. That seems a fair price. £18 just to have licensed copies. No one's going to pay £9 more just for the peace of mind that their copies are being like. No one actually gives a fuck. Let's be perfectly honest here. No one truly gives a fuck. I don't know who these idiots actually asked. I assume maybe family and friends, maybe union members, because of course the reason the unions want to do this, the musicians union, is because they realise, oh, the music industry is becoming kind of obsolete, and oh, the musicians union is becoming kind of obsolete, and in order to get people to pay our subs, we need to show we're doing something, even if it's futile and going against the wind of change. Instead, they need to accept that the times they are a-changing. And then on this, the lexicon's economy analysis, 2.4 billion loss in revenue for this period. So you think economic experts would kind of understand loss in revenue. Loss in revenue tends to implicate that, you know, this revenue is actually achievable in a real world and not in, I don't know, a complete dream. No one's ever going to do this. This would never be implemented, and if it did, then what's going to happen is demand is going to go down. This is some pretty basic economics here. If the price of CDs skyrockets and downloads prices remain the same, what's going to happen is demand will lower. Demand's not going to stay the same when CD is £19. What planet are you guys living on? Number 2, consumers are willing to pay 72p to make one licensed digital copy of a CD. Taken across the number of CDs sold between 2006 and 2012 and the likely number of digital copies that consumers would be expected to make of those CDs, the potential value of what customers would be prepared to pay for such copying amounts to between £100 million and £624 million. The problem I have here, firstly, is just kind of the inconsistency of the above thing. So 72p to make a licensed copy of a CD, but then you're going to be paying, apparently, if you bought a CD with access to unlimited licensed copies, that would cost £8.97. How many unlimited licensed copies do they really think people make? Like, people might make maybe 2, maybe 3. People aren't going to be making enough to justify £1.97 if one costs 72p. This is some basic maths here. And also, my CD collection consists of probably around 500 CDs. And I would like eventually all of them to be, you know, on my computer. It's just easier listening, and plan to go to university. I can't take 500 CDs. It's just not feasible. But I want to listen to that music, and I have legally obtained and bought that music. So instead, I should be punished. I should be punished for not going on Pirate Bay and not pirating, but actually buying the CDs, supporting the bands. Of course, I'm the ideal person to punish for the loss in profits of the music industry and the diminishing size of that industry. I'm not paying 72p per each digital copy I have to make. That would cost me a fortune. I mean, an absolute fortune. I can't afford to do that. 72p is more than sometimes I pay for the CD itself. And this is the really big kick, and this is the statistic that's been cited in a lot of articles if you've read about it. By requiring that all CDs are sold with the rights to make unlimited copies, the private copying exception introduced by the regulations will cause a loss of potential revenue to the music industry by approximately 58 million per year. Well, at least here they use potential and they're not being complete nitwits. But secondly, this is the worst argument. I don't know what judge believed them on this. It's going to cost them £58 million per year. Yeah, because let's see, this was a law that, oh yeah, everyone was aware of clearly. This is just such a well-known law. You know, you always taught when you were a kid, you know, don't murder, don't rape, don't steal, and of course, don't illegally rip CDs. I didn't even know this was illegal until the other day, to be quite honest. I didn't know it had ever been illegal. I just assumed it wasn't, because it's something everyone does. And let's have a look at the government's response to these shockingly awful criticisms brought up by UK music. Now, I may dislike David Cameron, dislike the Conservative government, but damn, the government's response here was pretty damn good. For example, they say here, the data from a consumer survey cited in the government impact assessment showed that consumers are generally unaware that this activity is legal, do not believe it should be illegal, and that their knowledge of the legality or otherwise of private copying is unlikely to have any effect on copying behaviour. Rather than assuming that the making of personal copies is currently restricted and does not take place, and comparing it to a scenario where it is no longer restricted and does take place, it would be more realistic to assume that personal copying is unrestricted, which it is in practice, if not in law. Genuinely well in their government, because it's so true. And another great point the government made. So the survey I was talking about by UK music just before. You might think, oh, I want to look up, and see what that survey was about, exactly how they're phrasing questions and things like that. Yeah, good luck actually finding that survey, because I've tried looking and it seems pretty damn difficult, if not impossible, to actually find anything about it. For example, as the government raised here, there were numerous questions about the sample selection, survey questions and analysis that the government would be keen to understand, not least to understand how the underlying assumptions were made. There seems so much wrong with the methodology here, and it is a desperate plea for relevancy in a digital age. Overall, though, this was just a terrible, terrible legal decision. This is utterly pointless. I mean, it seemed, why would the government even try and enforce this? How could they even enforce this? It would be a complete waste of police time to do so, and they're not. And if technological measures were brought in to prevent making unlicensed copies, then quite simply, the level of demand of CDs is going to drop, and they will end up shooting themselves in the foot. In fact, not even just in the foot, they'll shoot themselves firmly in the face. The very people they're trying to protect with this stupid legislation are those who will be destroyed by it if they even try and enforce it. Instead, it's really just there for the musicians' unions to say, hey, at least we try to do something. It may be stupid and useless, but hey, keep on paying your fees. Very, very poor decision. This has been TheAIbumMan. Thanks for watching. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Can't forget to subscribe, and long live rock and roll.